There is a lesson in resisting so hard to what's happening. I was supposed to be in Bali right now, in the middle of a month-long retreat after having backpacked through Spain and spent a week in the Azores at a yoga retreat. And, you know, there is a lesson in resisting so hard to what's happening. And for months, thing after thing would pop up that I could have said, okay, maybe it's not the right time. But I wanted to force it to happen because at the beginning of the year, I had committed to myself that this was the one thing I was going to do for myself. I was going to do this. I was going to be in this space. It was going to be this healing and peace and calm. And the truth is, in addition to all of the external factors that made me realize now is not the time, I also had to look internally and realize I'm not done yet. I am not there yet. And even if I were to go now, it wouldn't be what I wanted it to be when I booked it. So I moved it to next year. And I think there's this fine line of if you want something to happen, you have to make it so. Like you can't just wait for things to come to you. You have to take action on it. But there's also, if you are holding on by your claws and forcing something to happen when everything around you is telling you now is not the time, you have to listen to it. And so we're not passively waiting for life to happen, but we're also respecting when life is happening. We have to be present in the moment and acknowledge when we need to pivot. For me, the biggest realization was the headspace that I was in and my purpose of going and being there. I still have work to do before I can go do that. That is something that I need for myself before I get on that flight to go do what I intended to do. And then all of the other variables, I have work and I can make way more money now if I stay and work than if I were to go now. And so the trip will pay for itself 10 times over if I stay and work and then go later. And so there's this in real life, realistic, logistical lens, but then there's also the internal self-reflection lens that told me now is not the time. And I think it's such a good example because we try to force things to go our way because there is this sense of safety and control, but it's not real. Control does not mean safety. It just means you're trying to create predictability in your world. But then when something happens that throws off the predictability, it tells you that you're not really in control. That's why you don't like surprises because you can't account for them, because you have to pivot, you have to adapt. And when we don't have that resilience, that adaptability, when something else happens, that's where we start having these panic modes. That's where we get this state of stress and anxiety. That's where we maybe lose our temper or have outbursts. Or maybe that's when we lean into our vices. If you drink alcohol, if you do drugs, if you binge eat, these are all behaviors of coping with something. You hear it in movies and socially all the time. Oh, I've had a hard day, I need a drink. That's an unhealthy coping mechanism. That's actually one of the reasons that I stopped drinking 3 years ago. Because I recognized that any time I wanted alcohol, it was a coping mechanism. I was like, oh, I've had a long day, I need a drink. Or, oh my gosh, I'm stressed out, I need to go get a margarita with the girls. Well, I can go hang out with the girls without getting a margarita. What does alcohol have anything to do with it? It lets you take everything that's buried in here and it just sets it aside. It doesn't work through shit. I realized that it was when I was nervous and when I was afraid of social situations or being awkward that I was like, oh, I just need a little bit of social lubrication and have some alcohol. Also not a healthy habit. It also doesn't make you do the hard thing, step into the discomfort, and start having conversations. And when I realized that it was something that was continually holding me back, I threw it out. Because you know what? I don't even like alcohol anyway. I only ever did it because My friends were doing it, and that's such a sorry excuse to admit now as a 30-something-year-old that I never actually enjoyed the alcohol that I was drinking. And that when we went out, I didn't enjoy any of it, but I did it to fit in, to deal with X, Y, and Z, to put band-aids on wounds that I wasn't healing, that I wasn't even acknowledging, that I just shoved way deep down. And in the last 3 years, since I stopped drinking alcohol, I was forced to start working on myself. I don't even miss it. I sat with the emotions that I started feeling. I realized what I needed emotionally or mentally when I'm in those situations. I learned how to engage socially instead of relying on a crutch. And these are the things that if we have this need for control and this inability to be resilient, to adapt, these are the things that get buried for years, for decades. So whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's another one that I would do was I would go home and binge eat, or I would snack. I would be at the party, even a family gathering, and be at the table eating food. I would be at the party eating chips or having a drink in my hand because I didn't know what else to do, and it made me feel like I belonged there because I had something in my hand and I was just nonchalant in the background because I couldn't just be standing there. When we sit with ourselves, you learn so much, so much. And it's funny because, yeah, I'm not in Bali right now. I'm working, but I'm also really enjoying my life. I'm being present every single day. I'm sitting with my emotions, and I'm also going out and intentionally doing things that I enjoy. Bali will still happen. And so my question for you is, what is it that you're trying to force? What is it that you're trying to control? What is it that you are coping poorly from? What are your coping mechanisms? Do you seclude and numb out? Do you just go to sleep so you can wake up and have a restart tomorrow? Because that's not dealing with things either. Do I take drugs to get high and feel better? Is that the reason that you drink? These are all the conversations that you need to have with yourself, because nobody is going to have them for you. And unless you're really lucky, nobody's going to call you out on them. So the lesson here is you have to recognize the things that you're resisting. What is it that you're resisting so hard in your life? What can you surrender to? What can you accept? What can you identify? Because that's the first piece of the puzzle. That's the first step into being able to work through all of it and get to the other side. Get to the part that doesn't struggle with any of those things. The version of yourself that has evolved past it, that looks back at that little girl and gives her a hug because she sees what she's going through, but says, "You're okay now." Let me know in the comments what was most helpful. I'll see you next time.